Rappin' with ReefBum is sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine.
Hey, what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rappin' with ReefBum. I'm your host, Keith Berkelhamer. So today I welcome Ali Atapour, who is the founder and owner of Amazing Aquariums and Reefs in Orange, California. What's going on there, Ali?
What's up, Keith? Finally, after what I've known you for like 53 years, 54 years, 60 years. I've known you for 60 years.
I'm not 60 yet, dude. So all right, let's not stretch the truth there. All right. You know, but I'm going to be 60 this year. So
you're just a baby.
Yeah. I'm psyched to have you on, man. And we got a lot to talk about. We're both old school reefers, and we've been kind of catching up in conversations leading up to the show here. So I'm psyched to dude have you on and talk reef. But before we start talking, I do want to thank the sponsors of the show, both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine. Appreciate them supporting the live stream, and also appreciate you folks out there tuning in. I see there's a lot of you in the chat. As always, please drop your comments and questions, and we'll do our best to get to them. And spread the word. Hit that like button so more people can find the live stream. All right, so dude, how long have you been keeping reefs?
Wow, I started my first reef. It was either 93 or 94. And, you know, it was a tiny tank. It was maybe a 10 or 15 gallon tank with really easy stuff. But, yeah, since the 90s.
So you're coming up on 30 years, about 30 years of reef keeping?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I'm an old man now.
You and me both. So talk to us about your journey, though, through reef keeping. So you started back in the 90s, you said, and you were telling me that you used to be a moderator on Reef Central as a young buck. How did that all happen, man? How did you get onto Reef Central as a moderator, and how did you have the knowledge at such a young age to be a moderator on Reef Central?
Well, it was books, magazines, and just other. And during that time, the internet was not new, but kind of new, right? But we had such passionate, smart people on those boards. Yeah. Gregory Scheimer, Jake was there during that time. Michael Moy, remember Michael Moy?
Yeah, I met Michael. I know he was living in Connecticut when I was living in Connecticut. Maybe he's still in Connecticut, but he actually came over to my house in Connecticut and checked out with Tony Vargas.
Right.
Came over and checked out my tank.
Michael G. Moy, man, that guy, you know, he created Married with Children, one of the co-creators, the writers, Jefferson's, Good Times, all the different strokes. He would actually come over to California and visit me, you know, maybe once a year back in the day, and we would he'd come over my house, and then I'd drive him around to all the different wholesalers and the reef stores during that time. And this is maybe 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
So those were good times. But yeah, back then you had such really good, passionate people that were super smart, had amazing reef tanks back then. And most of these guys just had very simple systems. They didn't have incredibly, you know, difficult or tons of, we didn't have the gadgets back then. We just had basic stuff.
Yeah.
We had the Berlin system doing everything. But hours and hours of just researching back then, I loved it. It was, you know, what I enjoyed doing. So I was telling you off air, right? I didn't start off as a moderator. I was actually, you know, I was a young punk on there for a while until I shaped up and became a good boy. And yeah, that was good times though. As a moderator, you know, you would help out a lot of people. You would I just enjoyed helping people. I just enjoyed you know, just helping out. So that was always fun. That was a fun little time. Web Media too. Do you remember Web Media with Bob Fenner? I was one of the crew members on that.
Yep.
With Calfo, with Anthony Calfo. I hope he's doing well. I miss that guy. and
who,
Bob Fenner, Miss Bob Fenner, big time.
who else was on that? Because I think one of my other guests was on Wet Web Media, and I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember either, man. There was quite a few people in that crew, but yeah, those were the fun times.
Yeah, you know, that was really like a major resource for information. But like you said, it was like books and magazines. I mean, that's what us old school reefers. That's kind of like how we learned a lot. Was there anybody in particular that you kind of leaned on in terms of following their philosophies and principles of reef keeping?
My good friend Mark McGuire. He was the guy that was probably my reef mentor in the early stages. And, back in 2000, he had a wonderful reef tank, just SPS. And I remember we would go and test out lights at his house. He'd put on a 20K or a 10K. Not a 10K I was talking about, a 10K Ushio, and then two 20K radiums on the side. And we're like, wow, these three bulbs, perfectly blend everything together. Tat Wei was another good figure for me. He actually owned, he still owns it, Rio and Tam and all that. And he had some amazing tanks hidden inside of his warehouse. Nobody saw these corals. Nobody saw these tanks. And it was just mind-boggling stuff way back then. Joe Kelly, he had Tank of the Month at Advanced Aquarist, still a really good friend of mine. His tank, Joe Kelly's reef tank back in, 2002? To this day, that is the best SPS-dominated tank I have seen. Joe Kelly. I'll send you a link off of this stream, but you got to check out Joe Kelly's old tank. That was incredible.
Somebody Google Joe Kelly and drop a link in the chat. We can check that out right here on the live stream.
Kelley.
Kelley. Yeah. Aaron Duss. Hey, Aaron. Hey, thank you so much for that very generous super chat. Two cool cats. Great to see you on, Ali.
$25. Wow, Aaron. You are the man.
Aaron made a comment before. Great to see you on, bro. I should come visit and watch you live. Laugh out loud. We got Rich Colombo. What's happening there, Rich? We got Mark Vanderwalls in the house. Ali with a double exclamation point.
Marky, I love you, Mark. He knows I love that guy. He's one of my reef mentors, man. Mark, one of my inspirational dudes. Back then, Mark was a moderator on Reef Central before me, and his knowledge back then was off the chain, and he was young back then too.
So Paul, our moderator, Great Bitter Reef, dropped the link in the chat. So I think it's on
reefs.com. There it is.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Paul. Mark says Joe Kelly had a sweet reef with turtle grass.
Yep.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yep. A black tang back before black tangs were even black tangs. I think they were, green back then, and all of a sudden evolved to black.
That was like my holy grail fish. I always loved black tangs, and I kept. I think I actually had two, and I had one that was a pretty healthy specimen, but then I got fin rot. I should have. I had Bobby Miller from Humble Fish on last week, and I should have fed it vitamins to regenerate those fins, but. Freaking pricey, man. They're not cheap. They're still not cheap.
I remember they used to be $150 back in the early 2000s, and then they shot up to $300, and then they shot up to $900, and then they shot up to $1,500, and I think they're right around $1,000, $1,500 still, right? Something
There's
like that.
There's nothing more gorgeous than like a 2-inch black tang.
Yeah.
I mean that is like
against all the pastel colors of your stony corals.
Yep.
That's how Joe Kelly has a picture like that inside of there, where it's just a bunch of pastel colored stags, and then it's just his black tank.
I couldn't photograph them though. I just couldn't. I couldn't get the. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how to take pictures of that thing. Or back then, I didn't take videos. It's all pictures.
Yeah.
That's how it's all changed, right, Ali? Nobody's taking pictures anymore. It's all video.
Yeah. Michael G. Moy would take some amazing photos of fish. I remember his photos were amazing back then.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people could take good pictures of fish.
I remember
I don't know. Do you
Sanjay.
remember Leonard? Leonard on Reef
yes.
Central. This guy too. He had amazing reef tanks. He always had beautiful clams.
Are you talking about Leo? Who?
No, not Leo.
Not Leo.
Had, yeah, I remember his Acropora forest tank. Right.
Yeah.
I think I still remember the name of the thread. It was called Forest of My Dreams, and that was he had all the big stags back then. He had the convict tanks. Yeah, I still remember that guy too.
Yeah. No, there was like a lot of folks on Reef Central that you don't like see anymore in terms of in today's.
Joe Berger, remember Joe Berger's tank?
I visited Joe at least one time, maybe a couple of times, and not even sure he's still keeping reef tanks.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So all right, so dude, man, you how long have you had the store for? Tell us a little bit about the store. Do you want to do a like a little walking tour of the the store?
We can do that.
I mean, talk to us about it.
Yeah, we could do that. In 2000, between 2005 2006, I was planning the store because I knew I wanted to start a store, and I remember I told Jake about it. By the way, here's the Jake shirt for everybody.
I should have worn mine, at least underneath this, because I wear the same damn shirt every show.
No, that's all right. I wear the same clothes every day. People know. I got my uniform. But yeah, so I remember telling Jake I'm gonna open up a store, and then he got really excited. And this is back in the day where we wouldn't talk on the phone. We would talk on AOL Instant Messenger. Remember?
Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger. We would just talk back and forth on that until like 2 a.m. And he's like, I want to come. I want to help. I was like, all right, cool. Come over. He's like, buy me a bus ticket. So I bought him a bus ticket from Denver. And he actually came. He stayed with me for a few months. He basically lived with me. And
you just fed him?
I just fed him. My mom made him breakfast every morning. We had a lot of good times when he was here. And then, we would just wake up, get a coffee, and then go to the shop and just start working on it. He did all the plumbing. He hung all the lights. He was instrumental in helping me start the shop. And it was at the same exact time he was starting Reef Builders. And so we kind of started Reef Builders in my shop very, very similar times.
Chris Carney says, awesome shirt, Ali.
Thanks, Chris.
You want to show that handwritten note that you found in the shop there from Jake?
Oh, yeah, I'll show it.
You don't have to.
No, I'll show it. It's, when Jake passed, we were all super, super depressed, right? Everybody was depressed. I didn't want to do any reefing stuff. Like, I didn't want to, Jake was the guy that I would, if something cool happened at my shop or I came across a cool coral or cool fish, he's the guy that hey Jake, look what I found, look what happened. And same with him, when he found something cool, he would tell me. And it was just that fun brotherhood that we had. And when he passed, it was just still super devastating. But I didn't want to do anything. And then I randomly found a handwritten note, just I don't even know where I found it, in like a cupboard or something. And it's, let me grab it. And it's just like who would think this is just on a piece of
he wrote it and he just stuck it someplace, and
he just stuck it somewhere. And so I just was like down and out, didn't want to do anything. And then he ends it. He writes a bunch of stuff, and then he ends it and he writes good luck and keep it up, lover. Jake. And just that keep it up, man. When I read that he said that, I was like, all right, I got to snap out of it, man. I got to just get back into, reefing.
Yeah, I can't imagine in terms of, obviously you guys are very close, and his passing is just rocked a lot of people, especially those that were very close to him. But I think, you know, we've talked about this before, but his passing also really rocked a lot of people that never met him, you know?
Yeah.
And that says a lot. So
one thing I'd like to say is it should be reefing school to go and watch all those videos that he did on Reef Builders, all the reef therapy sessions. I think it's what, episode 1 through like 53. Those reef therapy sessions with Jake is reefing school. He talks about old school stuff, new school stuff, just stuff that actually impacts your ability to have good, successful, simple, easy, you know, thriving reef tanks. And everybody should watch those.
Yeah. No, it's required viewing, I would say, for anybody in the hobby.
Right.
Yeah. All right, dude. You want to kind of walk around a little bit and talk about the shop?
Yeah. So this is like, I'm not a tech savvy guy or anything, so I just got this little iPhone.
And it's a new phone though, right? So it's
a new phone, but hopefully I don't mess this up and shake too much. I don't have what's it called, a gimbal or whatever?
Yeah, you don't need no fancy gimbal.
We don't need no fancy gimbal, man. All right, let me see how do I flip this around. One second.
So
okay,
you were telling me that you're only keeping retail hours from 2 to 6 every weekday. Is that what it is, or 7 days a week? You're not there 7 days, are you?
2 to 6. I'm closed every Tuesday. So today's Tuesday. I came on my day off for you, Uncle Keith, because I love you. And
we got to say that Jake was recruiting you heavily to be on his Reef Therapy podcast, but you being the busy man, I feel lucky, man. I feel honored to have you on, Ali. This is your first.
I'm happy to be here.
Is this your
man.
first like live stream? No.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I think
Holy
so.
Shit.
At least for reefing.
Okay.
All right, let's just talk about some tanks. So this is one of the I don't do a lot of SPS at my shop, but I'd say this is my SPS tank. And it's a very simple tank. I hope this picture comes out okay.
It looks awesome.
Okay, cool. So my reefing style is very little rock.
Oh, you got the black tang in there, dude.
Yeah, he's in there. I got the black tang in there.
How's that Potter Blue not being an asshole? I mean, is that a new?
No, he is a jerk, but I don't have a ton of fish in here. There's a black tang.
The Regal. That's like another favorite of mine.
There's a Red Sea Regal. If you get the ones from the Red Sea, they do so much better than the ones that come from. I mean, obviously the ones from the Philippines or the gray-chested ones aren't, as hardy. But even the other yellow-bellied ones, like the ones from Maldives, they're generally hardy. They eat really well, but they nip at corals like crazy. And I found from the Red Sea, they come in much.
I've had some good luck with Regals. I had one for a long time in my old tank in I think it was in Connecticut. Oh, gorgeous, dude. And I had this really awesome Misbar Regal angelfish in my Peninsula tank. And then I had this mystery disease that wiped out a bunch of fish in that tank. And talking to Bobby Miller last week, I because I hadn't been adding any fish. There wasn't any thing that was going into the tank that potentially could bring disease with it. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I had a whole bunch of fish that just croaked. And he's like, you can. He's like, you can bring disease in by just bringing in snails. And I put a bunch of snails in there, so that must have been it.
Dude, I did the same exact thing in this tank. I had a pair of Red Sea Regal Angels, and I wiped them out because I added snails to this tank. The powder blue that you see here and the black tang, they were completely covered in what I think was velvet. Whoa. They were completely covered. Their eyes, their gills, they couldn't breathe. They were just in hiding, panting hard. And, dude, they just recovered. I did a few big water changes and
wow.
Knock on wood, I got super lucky. They recovered. But unfortunately, the pair of Regals didn't make it. So this guy is new. My good friend Sean actually broke down his tank, and he brought this guy over. So he's been in here for maybe 5 or 6 months, and he's a pretty model citizen so far.
Not picking a lot?
No, he's as I say that, he's like devouring the Gorgonia there. But the Gorgonia is pretty much the only thing he nips
I
at.
can't tell. What is the green? Is that a carpet anemone or is that green star polyps?
So there's two carpet anemones, the Gigantea carpet anemones. So these are, and I remember when I did a video with Jake, we talked about these. This is my favorite thing in the hobby. A green Gigantea anemone with a pair of true perculas in there. To me, that's like
awesome.
That's just, I love it.
And it's
There's
not
a purple
it's
blue
not
one.
wreaking havoc on the rest of the corals in there.
No, these type of carpets, the Giganteas, they come, from areas of really good current and good light, and they prefer to be on hard substrates. They're not like the Hedoni carpets that are a little more of a fish eater, and those come from they could come from shallow water, but they're usually found in sand beds. So their foot goes way into a sand bed, and if you don't have a deep sand bed, those guys eventually just want to walk around and move for the most part, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Where the Giganteas usually will stay in one spot, provided it's a nice area.
And you said,
and
you got another you said carpet in there.
Yeah, so right behind it, there's actually a blue and purple variant too. So they're kind of
those
squished together
clownfish,
back there.
are digging it.
Yeah, they love it.
Like a real true
host you could see
for the clownfish.
Yeah, exactly. It's a natural host. You could see that slimer back there being damaged by the Gigantea.
Valley slimer, I could see that. Yeah.
The old young guy.
And
this is kind of cool. It's a blue squamosa clam.
Oh, a blue squammy. Is that like an aquacultured squammy?
I think it was wild caught, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think those came through anymore in terms of imports.
Well, this guy is pretty old.
Oh yeah.
I got that from my buddy Joe when he had to move. Good old Joey. And this is kind of cool. This was one little speck of Garf bonsai.
I was going to say, that's a bonsai coral right there.
Yeah, it just started off as literally one polyp. I had sold a big piece of it that was there, that was on a rock, and then a little bit of it was just stuck to the floor, and that just started growing kind of like a Disneyland castle or something.
Look at that! You got little cool Maximas like in and around that thing.
Yeah, a couple of little Red Sea Maxima clams are in there.
What's your secret, man, with the clams? I noticed you got a lot of clams in there. I have Ali, man. I used to have great luck with clams. Back in the day.
Clams. You were
back in the day.
Yep, I remember Keith's clams. Yeah. Beautiful clams.
Yeah, I used to have like some teardrops, both the golden teardrop and the blue teardrops. I got a lot of my awesome clams from Reefer Madness out by you there.
Yep. I used to go and visit them all the time.
Yeah. They had some kick-ass stuff.
Jeff and Chris. Yep.
So what's your secret, man, with clams? Because I just I've lost my touch, or else the clams I'm putting in.
No, you haven't lost your touch. The problem with most clams is most of them have a bacterial issue, or a pathogen. Do you remember in the early 2000s we had the pinch mantle from all the Ponape clams that were coming in? The most beautiful clams ever, and they just wouldn't last. They'd live for 3 to 6 months and then just die. And then recently all those when I say recently, within the last 9 or 10 years now, those Tahitian Maximas have come in, and most of them are wild caught and just like plucked off the reef, put in potato sacks, and just walked over to whatever facility and thrown together. And I think they just get that weird pathogen or whatever it is, and they just don't last. However, the Tahitian clams that are the small Tahitians that are farm raised, those actually have a really good track record. Do you see the big guy just here? That guy was almost on his way out. I did an oxalic acid and Cipro treatment on him maybe a year ago.
You dipped the clam.
And this guy's shell, I mean, his body was totally inside the shell, no extension, and he totally recovered from the oxalic acid and the and Cipro, and I think I threw in some amoxicillin
So
as well.
this is a dip. You took the clam out.
Just
you
the
took
dip.
the clam out and dipped it.
Just the dip. Yeah, I took them out, put them in a big bucket, dipped them for about 6 hours, and put them back, and slowly got better.
What led you to OA?
Jake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, did Jake turn you on to that?
Yeah. Yeah. He told me to keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody, but everybody knows about it now.
Chris Carney, IT flagged me at work for looking at Reefer Madness back in the day. Oops. It was hard not to look at Reefer Madness. I mean, it was like the stuff they posted was crazy in terms of those acro colonies.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I heard Fiji is opening up again.
Yes.
So if they open up, that's going to be amazing. We'll get all those awesome austeras and just we've got so many cool corals out of there.
Yes.
Badass staghorns.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Is it Fiji or is it? Yeah, you're right. Right. It's Fiji that's opening up.
Yeah. Fiji is where all the Reefer Madness stuff came from.
All right.
Good old Walt Smith.
Yep. So all right, dude. Continue with the that. How big is that tank?
You know what? I'm kind of weird. I don't even know what gallons my tanks are. I just measure a size that I like and a number that I like. So this is 65 inches long by 34 inches wide and 21 inches tall. And I love to do the old Japanese method where they have the shallow tank so that the water level doesn't go all the way to the top of the tank.
It looks rimless, but it's not.
So
or is it?
It's rimless, but it has triangle bracing on the edges of it, just to help a little bit with support. So when you don't have the water level also all the way to the top, you don't have that pressure. So
you're not getting a lot of splashing over it because of the flow.
Yeah, I mean the splashing is one thing, but I mean the structural integrity of the tank improves when you don't have it filled all the way, right? So it's a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And when you don't do a ton of rock, you could get away. I just have a couple Neuros in here and an old Gyre pump that I've never cleaned. And
really?
That's it for water flow.
The Gyre,
And right now the Neuros are on 50%. They're not on full blast. The Neuros are incredibly strong power heads. The Neuro 7s are incredibly strong. They're even stronger than the MP40s. And, I don't think they could advertise that, but they are.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
It looks like a very simple setup. So you don't have a lot of rock in there. You do not have a lot of rock in there, it seems like.
No, barely any rock. Here, I opened the stand door so you could kind of see what's in here.
Yeah. So let's talk to us about what's under the hood.
There's a protein skimmer.
Yep.
And there is a small return pump. And when I say small, this is how much current that's coming out of my one single return. Can you see that?
Yeah.
See that tube?
Yeah, that's what's coming out.
It's like 200 gallons per hour.
Wow, that's nothing, man.
That's nothing. I could use a MaxiJet 900 as a return pump, and I could care less. I think too many people overdo their return pump size. I don't think it makes a difference. 1-2 times turnover is plenty.
Sturgis Reef makes a funny point. Laugh out loud. Don't touch the Gyre. In other words, don't try to do any maintenance on it because you're going to break it.
Yeah, no, I know better than to take them apart. If I'm going to clean that thing, the way I would clean it is fill up a 5-gallon bucket with fresh water and add some citric acid and put it on low flow and just run
that's smart.
The Gyre in the citric acid and then just wash it real good.
You're a smart man.
With tap water and then give it an RO
You're
bath.
a smart man, dude. I've taken them apart and I just can't get them back together and working properly.
Yeah, so very low turnover on all my tanks. I'm not a giant fan of doing big return pumps at all. I don't need to waste the energy.
So you got a protein skimmer, a small return pump. You got some decent flow going on in there. You don't have a lot of live rock. I see. Is that a bare bottom tank?
It's bare bottom, but it's pretty much covered in coralline now. Yeah. So it's like a rock bottom now. And then for lighting, there's a
metal halide,
10K metal halide in the middle, 250 watts, and then 2 Gen 6 Radeon Blues on the sides. And usually I run my lights for total 6 or 7 hours on all my tanks. I'm not running them 10 or 12 or 13 hours, 6 or 7 total. And what I like to do is I like to run the metal halide maybe for 3 or 4 hours, and then to get that crazy, Instagram orange filter blue pop, it'll be the radions for the final, couple
Yeah.
hours, so that you could enjoy both styles, and you don't have to settle on a white tank and a blue
Yeah.
tank. You could get that natural-esque look, and then also get that insane blue pop.
Yeah, Reef Exotica by Luis Aceves. Yeah, Luis, we're talking about that Regal. It's a not captive bred, right, Ali?
No, it's wild caught from the Red
And
Sea.
it's been pretty good in terms of not nipping at corals and stuff like that.
If you guys want to know where to get those sea dwelling creatures, that's the wholesaler. So if you got a retail shop that buys from them, sea dwelling creatures usually gets the best regals. In my experience with regals, sea dwelling creatures, the wholesaler there, when they get Red Sea regals, you got to jump on them because they do really well. So this big tank is actually plumbed into this little 24-inch by 24-inch
Nice.
cube that mainly has a Magnifica anemone as like the showpiece at the top of the rock there. So that's a big Magnifica anemone. And obviously this light turned to the blue hue right now. So it's just soft corals. I mean, there's a couple acros in there. But it's just soft corals. And
what are you doing, man, in terms of supplementation, in terms of calcium and alkalinity? Are you doing two-part? Are you doing a little calcium reactor? What's your deal there? Kalkwasser?
I don't do calcium reactors here because I don't want to risk screwing them up, because I know I probably will screw them up. So I just rely on old reliable B-ionic, part A, part B, B-ionic with a dosing pump. However, I do utilize Kalkwasser reactor, and I have basically all my freshwater
going through with the Kalk.
Go through the Kalkwasser reactor. And I have Kalkwasser reactors on most tanks. On the big coral selling systems, I'll show you real quick. Like all these guys, I have I just have a 44-gallon brute drum with a Versa pump above it.
Dosing the Kalkwasser.
Yeah, kind of like the way you're doing it. And I just monitor my pH there. And that seems to do a good job. I love Kalkwasser. Kalkwasser is amazing. And I recommend everybody, even if you have a 20-gallon nano tank, you could set up, put a Versa as your ATO, and then have it draw from a 5-gallon bucket with a little bit of Kalkwasser in there.
It's so easy.
And, it's so easy. And with the Versa, you're just going to be, there's no sensors with the Versa. So you're just going to be estimating what your evaporation is, and then just inputting that in mLs, and just have the Versa do it on continuous. And it's super easy.
Cheap.
And it's cheap,
Look at that tank, man. Is that the turtle grass tank there?
Yeah, nice. Here you go, Marky. Here's the turtle grass. I got something crazy cool in this tank.
You got my favorite wrasses in that tank, dude. The African leopard wrasses.
This was, I love the leopards. There's a pair of African flamebacks too in here. That's really cool.
That is so cool.
So this was Jake's favorite tank. He actually featured this tank on Reef Builders back in 2008, and I think it has 700,000 views on this tank.
Whoa!
And it's just a very simple tank. So this tank is just operated with 4 plugs. There's a plug for the metal halide. There's a plug for the old Tunzi NanoStream skimmer. NanoStream pump. A plug for the protein skimmer down below, and and a plug for the return pump. Yeah,
you know what? Plugs. It just looks so natural. It just looks like you've got a little piece of the some lagoon in your shop right there, dude. And it's a great look, and I think a lot of people get caught up with just trying to cram too many corals in a tank, and they don't let stuff grow out. And it's just great to kind of see, in a softy tank like that. Such a natural type of look, and letting it just evolve organically.
Absolutely. There's just there's like 4 corals in here. There's some of that the true Red Sea pulsing xenia
Yeah.
back from Jeff way back in the day. Check this out. This is crazy. That's
Ooh.
a ribbon
Somebody was
eel,
asking
a
about
ghost
that.
ribbon eel.
Percy was asking.
So this ghost ribbon eel, what makes it unique is that he actually eats pellets.
Really?
So I just feed him pellet foods. That's it. Usually ribbon eels, they require live food. If you're super lucky, you could get them to, eat a little bit of just some type of frozen krill or silver side. But this guy just picks up pellets off the floor and
You
eats them.
got the
It's pretty
you got
wild.
the orange spotted filefish. Did I see a chayote leopard wrasse in there?
No, there's not one of those. There's a Timor.
Oh wow.
There's a Timor, and then
okay.
there's a couple of regular leopards, and then the Africans.
Yeah.
So yeah, this tank is super easy. Not much to it, but it's the one tank at the shop that probably gets the most attention, just because it's so simple. And like you said, it's a very natural-esque tank.
You get a lot of people saying like, "I want a tank like that. Can you help me set one up?"
Yeah. People walk in all the time, and they'll look at. That's why I kind of like having a lot of displays, is people get different ideas.
Yeah.
And also, I'm an addict. I have to. I like different themes. I like different styles, and a lot of people that can't, that don't have the ability to have a bunch of different tanks, unfortunately, they every coral looks nice, right? So you just start cramming a bunch of different corals into one tank, and it doesn't look natural, or it just looks confusing and just odd. So, and I'm guilty of that myself, but because I have a lot of these different tanks, I could do
Oh, we lost him. Oh no. We'll get him back. I think he's already calling me back here. Let's see. Ali, you there? Ali.
Yeah.
Oh, we got you.
I got a call and it threw me off. Sorry.
You got kicked off, huh? There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just saying, when you have like a bunch of the different tanks that I do as display tanks, you could do more themed tanks if you wanted to, and just kind of do different things.
Oh, so that's a halide you got over that tank.
Yeah. It's an old school 14. It's a 14K double ended on this one.
Oh wow, nice.
And then this is another rimless tank with the low water level. This one I actually have a halide, but the halide shut off, and there's just a single AI blade over it right now. And these AI blades are pretty incredible. Yeah, I didn't think they were going to be this powerful and this nice,
them, huh?
and have this much spread, but they are really nice. And this is just a simple LPS tank.
A lot of I see ACANs in there, right? Favias.
There's some don't call them ACANs, man. Jake would get mad. They're called Micromoose or Lord Halides.
Okay.
There you go.
What are you doing for those? Are you doing anything special in terms of feeding them, or any?
I don't do crap for these things. These are LPS, man. LPS are easy. You don't have to do a bunch of stuff for them. Just don't blast them with a ton of light. Don't put animals in there that eat them. Like I have 3 tangs in here, but a lot of tangs will nip at stuff like lords and lobos and brains. You got to keep an eye on them. A lot of customers come in and they tell me, all my corals are doing great except this one or except these 2. What's going on? And 9 out of 10 times, it's nothing to do with their water. It's just a fish that's nipping at them, or a shrimp. Peppermint shrimp are notorious, nippers of LPS.
So NLG makes a very nice comment here. You had ReefBum, you had Chris Meckley on, and he said the problem with this hobby is there are too many selfish people in the hobby. Ali is the epitome of unselfishness for the hobby. Helps anyone and everyone.
Who said that? I paid him some money or something? I should give him a super chat.
N.L.G. What is that? Is that a Goniapora with a... What is that, dude? It's got 2 different colors going on there.
Yeah, it's kind of a bicolored one. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
It's split right in half. It's not two different pieces. It's one piece that just has the split down the
That's
middle.
crazy. And you got that from a wholesaler or something?
Yeah, from one of the wholesalers. I can't even remember which one.
And is that for sale?
So like some of these pieces, I would sell if someone offered a bunch of money, but honestly, I probably still wouldn't sell it because I enjoy that coral so much. But
Yeah,
my
don't sell
plan
that,
with
man.
that
Don't
one,
sell that.
my plan is just to eventually let it get a little
Frag
bigger
it.
and then
Yeah.
frag it and then just sell the frags.
Yeah. Talk to us, man, about what you're feeding these tanks in terms of fish and coral food. If you're doing anything, is it amino acids or anything special that we should know about?
Nah, I feed them. That's the Jason Fox answer. Nah,
Just
nah.
water changes?
No, I don't even do a ton of. I do water changes, but I do my water changes surgically, meaning I don't do big water changes. I might do a 5 or 10 gallon water change, but I actually get in there with a half-inch, little half-inch hose, and I siphon out detritus or gunk. So I concentrate. So basically, that 5 gallons that I pull out of the tank is nasty. It's dirty water, and then I, put in nice, clean salt water back in.
So you're just taking the
But I
detritus
don't
out.
just taking detritus out basically. So I'm not just changing the nice, clean part of the tank and then dumping water in like that. And for food, I just feed basically pellet foods for the most part, just for the fish. I don't really feed any of my corals, and I have really old established LPS colonies. I shouldn't say never. If I'm bored once in a blue moon, I might do something. I might throw something in there, but it's nothing on a schedule. I don't feed twice a week or once a week. It might be 3 months since I throw a coral food in this tank.
And
so it's
I'm going to assume that you don't have a lot of issues with problematic algae.
No, not really. I mean, there's sometimes you get this like funky algae that you've never seen before. That's more of a macro algae and not a micro algae where it comes from dirty water. But no, not really. Luckily, knock on wood, I've been okay with that stuff.
And knowing your simplistic approach, or just assuming a simplistic approach, I assume you're not dosing nitrates or phosphates, or are you?
Nope. I don't do any. I don't listen. This is gonna sound crazy, but I have never once done a nitrate or phosphate test ever. I mean, okay, maybe in the 90s when we had the little basic titration test kits with which are nitrates, but I don't really. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't. Some people might need to, test that stuff. If you're trying to keep a full-blown SPS dominant system and get the perfect color, sure, test that stuff. Sure, dose that stuff. But that's not. I like simple reefing. I like to keep low maintenance corals. I like to keep.
I was going to say what. So what are you testing, and how often are you testing?
Well, I have a pH monitor. Oh, look, I have a friend coming right now.
Oh, he can join us on the live stream.
He can join us. This is amazing. I should let him in, and we could we should have a third guest.
Well, you're closed, dude. So I mean, what the hell? You got to have a day off.
Yeah, no, it's just unfortunately we got some homeless people in the area. So these clams are pretty awesome. These are wild caught Australian clams, and they rarely have permits to bring out Aussie Maximas.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see them,
see
but they're pretty big, and they're actually attached to rockwork, meaning they were taken with the rockwork off the reef,
and
so
they stayed attached.
Came with
they
rocks.
stayed attached.
Yeah, they stayed attached.
Wow.
This is pretty incredible too. This is a ginormous elegance coral that's probably, I don't even know, almost 18, 20 inches in diameter.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. You don't see big, giant elegances that big often.
No. All right, so let's get back to testing, man. So pH, all right, you're doing that.
Well, I have an Apex that has a pH monitor, right? So I just kind of take a glance at my pH, and usually at nighttime is about 8.1 and as high as 8.4 during the
Yeah.
daytime.
Nice.
So
That's where you
pretty
get for
pretty
that's where you get
simple.
with a 2-part and Kalkwasser.
And the Kalk
Yeah.
washer, exactly. So very, very simple. Uh, and every now and then I'll measure alkalinity, magnesium, and calcium.
Like how
Um,
often?
Maybe every 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow. So no alkalinity monitors for you.
No. I had Tridents and stuff. I eventually took them down. It was too much work to upkeep and change reagents. Now look, if I had one tank at my house, if I just had one tank at my house, I might have one of
Yeah.
those. But with all these different systems, it's just way too damn much to keep it track of, and then get faulty readings because the reagent's low and this and that. So, and in here, this sump, same thing. It's a very simple sump. It's just the Kalk reactor, the 2-part
Yep.
dosing of bionic, the little skimmer, and then a small return pump. Bada bing, bada boom.
And so like you said, water change wise, you're just basically siphoning out detritus in these systems, and you're not shooting for a particular percentage. You're just getting whatever you can get out with the detritus, and that's what you're doing with that. So I mean, Ali,
Yeah.
I mean, so you're not doing ICP testing, I'm assuming.
Nope. Only when there was that bad batch of tropic marine salt going around. I did an ICP test during that time. But if there's, so I test every day. But you know how I test? I look at the damn corals. If the corals are polyped out, if they're fluffy, if they look good, if they have growth tips, what else do I got to test for? It's all perfect.
Yeah. Well,
And then, you back it up with occasional testing here and there. And if something is awry or something looks weird and I know it's not from a fish nipping, then sure, I'll test right away and see what's going on.
How do you manage? So, obviously you're taking stuff in from wholesalers, and and I'm assuming you're getting some stuff maybe from some hobbyists as well. I don't know. I mean, you're bringing stuff into the shop there, right? Yet everything looks pristine. What do you have, a quarantine process? Are you dipping stuff before it goes into these tanks? Is there a quarantine system?
Yeah. So yes and no. I don't have a separate quarantine tank, but when I bring in corals, I do. Depends on what kind of corals. First of all, I'm not buying random, acroporas all the time. I very rarely am I going to bring in a wild caught acro, just because I don't want to deal with flatworms and other pests. So I don't bring in a ton of acros, but my LPS, when I bring them in, let's say I bring in, a Lord colony or something, I'll always do a regular dip on them with a mix of the Red Sea coral dip, a little bit of potassium, and the Brightwell Coral MD. So I mix all those up and a little bit of Revive. And I do that dip. And then after that dip, I will wash the coral for seconds in pure RO water, just fresh water, just for like 3 seconds, and to rinse the dip out. And also, I think that little fresh water kind of like will wash off any flatworms that could have remained too. Or not for sure, but it helps. And then if I bring in, like, let's say I bring in a frog spawn or a Euphilia or a torch, well, those things are super sensitive. I mean, not sensitive, prone to getting those polyclad flatworms. And that's one of the biggest ways those things die, is because of those damn polyclads. So I do all those dips on them, and then I keep those particular ones in systems that do not have any euphilias in them. So I don't risk getting my healthy mother colonies sick. And if they do good in those systems for 3 or 4 months, and I know for sure there's nothing on them, then I might move them on to a different tank that houses other ones. But I'm super picky about the stuff I bring in, and then also with torch corals and a lot of LPS, I'll do prophylactically the antibiotics as well. So I'll put a little bit of oxalic acid, a little bit of Cipro, a little bit of amoxicillin inside of just a dip, and just put them in there for 4 to 6 hours.
Interesting.
And that helps a ton. Elegance corals these days, well, if you get an elegance coral from Australia and it has a cone bottom on it, meaning it wasn't chipped off of a big mother colony, and it's from Australia, and you do those dips on it, and you do the antibiotic dips, 95% of the time that elegance coral is gonna be like the elegance corals that we had back in the early 90s, where they were bulletproof. You couldn't kill elegance corals back in the day. And then ever since like 2002 until now, basically, you can't keep them alive. You get the ones from Indonesia and they just don't last. But if you get an Aussie one with a cone bottom and you do those dips, you're golden.
What for people out there that don't know the what you're talking about? What's the protocol in terms of the dip? I mean, you're mixing a lot of stuff together there. You're doing both Cipro and OA together, along with some other stuff.
And amoxicillin.
So that's quite a cocktail, man.
Let's say, yeah, hit it at all angles. Who cares? Just go nuts with it.
And that's all. That's one dip thing.
That's a one dip thing. I'll just get like a big tub, add some salt water to it. Add not a big tub, but when I say big tub, it might be a 2-gallon tub, and I might add a 500 milligram Cipro tablet. Then I'll add 250 to 500 milligrams of amoxicillin, and just a couple little small little tiny scoops. You know the scoops that come with ChemiClean? Yeah. I'll add a little bit of oxalic acid. And then I just mix it all up really good, and then put the coral in there and just let it bathe in that little mixture for 4 to 6 hours.
With a power head going?
No power head. I just put them in there. Yeah. And then that's it. I don't add amino acids or trace elements or anything like that to the dip, like I've heard some people talk about. I don't want to dirty that water. I just want pure antibiotics and clean salt water, and that's it. So yeah, I do that. And so this is just a 20-gallon Red Sea reefer tank. That's super simple. It's just some plate corals, and you got some zoas at the bottom and a giant. So this is pretty simple tank. Might do a 1 or 2 gallon water change to it once every month or something, maybe, if that.
It's a simplistic approach of reef keeping.
Yep. Super simple.
Yeah.
Super simple, but keep an eye on things.
Acanthophilias.
That's a really nice elegance back there with the orange yellow tips.
Setosa, is that an orange Setosa back there?
Yeah, that's a Setosa way back there.
Super
this is
gigantic chalice in the back.
Yeah, it's too big. I need to I could throw this around like a giant frisbee right now.
This is like a mixed reef, man. You got acros in there, you got LPS, you got digging it.
Yeah, just simple, easy corals.
Oh, wow, look at that. Billy Sprout, show the Manila Spy. I guess you haven't gone to that yet.
The Manila, that's Jake's coral that he brought over from Dubai, right?
Yeah. Wow, look at that piece, man. Pretty amazing, man.
So this is my sump for this whole system, and it's basically just a protein skimmer with a return pump, or a bunch of return pumps, because it's one system, so it shares this sump. So the return pumps shoot into the different
no UV sterilization for you.
No, I'm not opposed to doing UV on reef tanks. It's just too risky for me, because what happens sometimes is those damn things will get a crack in them, and then you're dealing with electrocuting stuff, and I don't want to deal with that.
Electrocution would not be good.
It's just another thing I'd have to worry about. So I don't run UVs. This Acanthophilia is mind blowing.
That's incredible. Holy smokes, man. Well, that's what you get for being out there on the left coast with all the corals coming through.
You know what, man? Corals are coming through everywhere these
are
days.
they?
A lot of places. I get corals from Texas. I get corals from all
Really?
over. Yeah, I get them. They're, corals are coming in everywhere now.
Well, you obviously know the right people, man.
Yeah. Well, that helps. You build relationships with the suppliers, and your suppliers basically become friends and family
Yeah.
because you see them once a week, and for years and
Yeah.
years. These are some cool Blastomusa.
Dude, man, you got like a ton of corals.
Yeah, there is a lot of corals.
But obviously, you've got the business, man, where you can have that sort of collection going.
Yeah, I have a lot of old, long time customers. Like I was saying with the suppliers, same with the customers. They become like family and friends, and you build relationships with these people, and they actually become very close friends. A lot of them. And if you're a nice guy and you're cool with them and you don't rip anybody off and you treat people nice,
Yeah.
Some of my best friends came from the shop.
Oh yeah. You're not freaked out by having those paleys back there?
Heck no. These are the old Palithoa grandis,
Yeah,
the sun polyps that me and Jake love these things.
They're awesome, man, but they're freaking dangerous.
They ain't that bad. You know what's really bad is the other Palithoas, the protopalithoas, have you seen the nuclear deaths or the
I think so.
purple,
Yeah.
What's the other one called? The nuclear greens.
Yeah.
That style of Palithoa, those are incredibly those are really, really, really bad.
Oh, are they? I think I had some
horrible.
of those.
If you have those, I suggest
I used to
just junking them.
Yeah.
And don't just get them and throw them away. You want to bag them underwater, put them inside some type of container, seal it completely, and then put it outside in a dumpster, so nobody else could get hurt by them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta be careful with some of that stuff. And then when you have the regular pallies and the regular zoanthids, those are actually not too bad unless you're rubbing them all over your nipples or something, which I'm known to do. But
well, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
So, man, what's your favorite coral in the shop right now? Like top three.
My favorite.
Let's say
top
three corals in the shop right now.
Oh man. Okay. There's so many, but it's got to be maybe top five.
All right, do top five.
So that Gigantea anemone is an anemone, so it doesn't count as a coral. So that is one of my, well, that's my favorite if I just had to have one thing. This Lobo right here.
That's a Lobo?
I think so. It's either a Lobo or Symphelia or one of those goddamn things. But I think it's a Lobo. Yes, it is. It's super red. So when I first opened my shop in 06, 07, I remember the supply. I was bringing in corals back then, and the supplier, I remember from Indonesia, he said he's going to put something special in my box. And it was this thing, but it was way smaller. And then, unfortunately, I killed that coral. So I've had two stores so far. I've had one down the street, and I was there for 5 years. And then I moved to this location, which is my new location, but I've been here for 12 years. Well, anyways, I killed that coral over there. And then when I moved to this location, I got another shipment from Indonesia, the exact same coral. So I got that coral back, basically. And it's the exact same size as how big the other one was when I killed it.
That's crazy.
So I love this coral.
That's crazy.
That giant elegance I showed you in the other tank, that is also on the list.
That's number 3.
That's also there. This is a really beautiful sarcophyton. That thing is gorgeous with the white tips. That sea fan, it's a true Gorgonia. I don't know if you could see it back there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but I get the gist.
It's a true sea fan, and it's photosynthetic, and that's got to be up there on my list as top corals as well.
You haven't named
yeah, I
an
don't know.
acro yet. I mean, and based on what I could tell in terms of your collection, Ali, you're not like you're not a name game kind of person. I mean, you showed us the Green Valley Slimer, which is an old school classic. You showed us the Garf Bonsai.
I like
the Garf Bonsai is probably my favorite in your collection that I could see.
Garf Bonsai, Milka Stylo, you
awesome.
got the Yongi. I like the old school stuff, man. I like that stuff is easy to keep.
We haven't seen this tank,
you don't have to do anything. This is just a little 2-gallon or 2.5-gallon desktop Pico tank, and it's just flower anemones with a tiny little filter on there, just moving water around. There's no media in that filter. It's just moving water. And then there's actually some turtle grass that I got from Julian. That turtle grass tank I showed you before, all that grass came from Julian too.
Really?
He gave me, I think, five or six strands, and then it took off. So it's just a little desktop tank on the counter here. Oh, this is cool. You see all these paintings up here? My sweet old mama paints these.
Really?
Yeah, she's a really good artist.
These are all oil those are not photographs. So that's actually oil paintings.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're all oil paintings that she does.
Wow.
She was like, "Do you want me to paint you a fish?" I was like, "Okay." And then she painted that the clownfish one first, and then slowly she did the other ones.
You got the fathead, Antheus. What is that? The peppermint.
The Hell Freaky.
Yeah.
Oh, the peppermint angel. Yeah.
And the mandarin.
Yep.
Really, pretty sweet, dude.
Yeah, she got skills. That lady got skills.
Well, you definitely got some skill there too, man, because obviously you've got quite the talent in terms of reef keeping. There's another tank. That's a little nice peninsula tank you got going there. Yeah,
this is just my fish only tank. Well, there's sea anemones in here too, but it's just a fish tank with I got my harlequin tusk in here.
And you got a couple of couches, so you got your customers just kind of hang out and talk reef.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, my shop. I'm closed today, so nobody's here. But my shop is like a sitcom. You get the funniest people that come in. We have a blast, and everybody just has so much fun.
So that's why retail's only open for 4 hours a day, because you'd get nothing done.
I'd get nothing done, man. Some of these bastards don't leave. They just stay on the couch for hours and hours.
See,
I got some guys, they come here when I open and they leave when I close.
So what are they? They're not working or something?
I don't know. I make fun of them too. I tell them, "What the hell are you doing here? Go."
So it's like you got your own little reefing club going on there.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. This is one of the guys that comes and sits on the couch. I made a poster of. So if you see him, notify me. Notify the authorities.
Well, interesting.
I think he's watching on the stream too. Is Percy Adams watching?
All right, so now we're gonna start the inside jokes.
Is Percy Adams watching?
Yes, Percy Adams is watching.
Percy's my boy, man. He lives in Tahiti, and he comes over and visits about once a year with his lovely wife Veronica. And the last time, or one of the last times they came, Veronica, speaking of clams, and remember they're in Tahiti where a lot of these clams are found. She brought me Maxima clam curry made in coconut curry, fresh, like just a whole jar of a bunch of Maxima clams and coconut curry, and it was delicious.
Well, we're gonna have to show you send me some pictures of this incredible clam.
Oh yeah,
we'll show that.
I'll tell that clam story.
ACI is in the house, both Chris and Amanda. What's happening there, guys? Billy says everyone should visit at least once. It's cooler than any public aquariums. I don't know, man. It sounds like you're having just a lot of fun. there, Ollie. You know?
Honestly, yeah, it's super fun. It's super fun. Did you pull up those clam pictures?
Yeah. Why don't you flip back around there so we can see your lovely face? And unless you got more you want to show us.
No, I mean it's cool.
Go ahead. You finish the tour if you want to finish the tour.
No. Well, you know what? There's a couple things I'll show you, but I'll show you at the end. You want me to show you now?
Up to you, man. Up to you.
Hold on. I'll show you now. Let's go to the back room.
Uh-oh. We're going to the secret back room.
I'm setting up some frag systems over here. That's going to be cool. But check out this anemone. This is my one of one anemone.
Oh, how come that didn't make your top 5 list? Or it's not a coral?
I forgot about it, honestly. Yeah. So this anemone, it's a bubble tip anemone. Can you see the tips on it?
That's crazy.
Pure white tips. And this is just under pure white light right now, too. It's not under any blue light or anything. It's just this anemone. Actually, Jake wanted the first, and I promised him the first split off of it. But this hasn't split yet. But this thing is just incredible. I've been doing anemones for years and years. I've never seen one like this.
That's just crazy. And in terms of being under the white light, you know, I can imagine that
just in a 20-gallon nano. Well, I have it in a specimen box, but so this is just a tank with a giant Cinularia and then a couple of tank spawned gold torch corals and a purple sea bay anemone, and then you have that.
Tommy Duma is calling it the boom boom room.
Shut up, Tommy. So yeah, so back here I do a little bit of propagating of some softies, and these are some really cool elegance corals that I'm slowly propagating as well.
Did you tell us what you were?
These corals, the orange tongue corals, are awesome.
Yeah.
Orange tongue corals are one of my favorite. One of Mark's favorites too.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Some more anemones that I'm propagating here.
Chris from ACI says, I remember Jake mentioning this BTA. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Ali, remind us again, what are you feeding the tanks in terms of fish food?
Pellets. Spectrum pellets. I'll feed some of the TDO pellets from time to time, the Spectrum pellets. Just pellets, because with pellets, I could just grab a jar and kind of just shoot them inside the tanks like Kobe, and just shoot them in the tanks and not have to get my hands watery and wet. And it's super easy. So yeah, basically just pellet foods. Like I said, from time to time, I might do a little bit of frozen food. I do like the LRS frozen food. That stuff is pretty awesome. Yeah. I like the rods as well. Rods is great. And I like the Hikari, just the cubes, Spirulina brine, Spirulina mysis. But 98% of the time, I'm just feeding pellets just for convenience. And it works good.
Yeah, obviously.
And it's easy.
All right, so let's show the clam stuff. So,
yeah.
Talk to us about. So I'm showing a picture here of this. What kind of clam is this?
So this is a devil clam, a Tavora clam from Tonga, and for years the King of Tonga didn't allow any collection of these things, and these things are one of the most sought after and rarest clams in the trade. 6 of them came in. Well, 6 of them came in, and I think it was 2017, maybe 2016. Honestly, I can't remember anymore. One went to Chicago, one went to Germany, one went to Unique Corals in LA, and I got 3 of them. Well, unfortunately, the 2, one of them I actually got as just a shell. It already arrived dead, but I wanted the shell because the shells themselves are Smithsonian
Really?
pieces. A shell of a devil clam is incredible. It's an incredibly rare clam.
So we're looking at this one picture of it's laid out. I guess it's not in the water, and the mantle is kind of like receded inside the shell. Is that kind of like the start of its decline?
Yeah.
Or is that when? Okay.
Yep, it was part of its decline. It was starting to die, and I recognize when a clam's about to die. So I am not gonna waste this clam. One, it's really expensive, and two, I said, how many people in human history have eaten a Tavora clam?
So quickly, what's the retail on a Tavora clam?
It's just kind of you could get whatever for it. It just depends who wants to buy it. I wasn't even selling them. I didn't want to sell them.
Thousands of dollars.
You could get $1,500. You could get $10,000. It really depends on how bad somebody wants that clam. They were expensive when they came in. I think they wholesaled around, I want to say $1,500 to $1,600. Wow. I could be wrong. It was a while ago, but I think that's what they wholesaled for. So I didn't want to just kill this clam. I said, I'm going to eat it. So
you're rinsing it right now? I see, you got...
Well, so actually, I took it out of the system. I ate some of it raw at the shop. I ate part of the mantle, and I ate part of the scallop part, the muscle. So
dude, you weren't worried that this thing was dying and it might have had a disease and all that stuff? And
I was worried, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I just said, I'm going to risk it.
You want to eat it?
I want to taste it and eat it. I'm not going to let it go to waste. So yeah, I ate it, and actually the little muscle part on the shell was delicious. It was fantastic. The mantle part itself wasn't that great. It was like kind of chewy and weird.
You made tacos?
So that
was clam tacos.
So that was just a little. That was just a little. I did a taste test raw. I froze the meat. I had one of my best friends is a sushi chef, and I went to my other friend Abel's house, and Johnny, the sushi chef, met us there, and he was too scared to prepare it raw. So he basically made us saute it, and then we made tacos out of it, and we had Tavora tacos from Tonga, which was kind of cool.
And you didn't,
and they were good.
You didn't get violently ill afterwards.
No, nothing happened. We were worried, but nothing happened. It's all good.
And are we ever going to see those clams again come into the trade?
So 2 years ago, maybe it was a year and a half, about 2 years ago, Jake calls me and he's like, dude, there's a devil clam that's available. And I said, you got to jump on it. You got to get it. And he's like, it's expensive. I said, you got to get it. Even if, and we both knew the risk. We both knew it was more than likely going to die. But I said, dude, the shell by itself is a Smithsonian piece. You got it. Hopefully, knock on wood, it lives. But if it dies, you will always have that shell.
When you say it's a Smithsonian piece, are you saying that's a collectible that can fetch a lot of money?
It's just a rare museum type, artifact that it's not. Because these clams are very deep water.
It's hard to
very,
find.
Very uncommon in Tonga. So they're not like a Dorasa clam or a Squamosa clam or a Hippopus clam. These you just don't see them out there. So yeah, Jake ended up buying one too a couple years ago, and unfortunately it passed away. But he had the shell, and so yeah.
Yeah. Listen. So, I mean, what's the theory that they're just coming in with disease or something like that, or it's just not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it had the typical symptoms of the pinched mantle and all that just the clams get. So, unfortunately, it didn't make it, but still got the shells.
You got the shells around the shop.
Yep, there they are. I got one right above me.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So, can you see that? That's one, and then the other two are kind of far away, and I'm kind of lazy. I don't feel like walking over there, but there's two more over there.
So speaking of Jake again, you mentioned something interesting to me before the live stream. You want to talk about the bottle caps?
Oh, I forgot to show you. I gotta show you.
All right, show us the bottle caps.
So yeah, so when Jake came out here to do, he'd come out and visit from time to time, not often because it's hard for him to get out from Colorado, right? But so every time he'd come, obviously he would have a bunch of drinks. And do you see these bottle caps on the door?
Mm-hmm.
So Jake put those up there, and they've basically been up there ever since. So he would just drink, and then he would just put one up there, and I had no idea. So a few, like I probably didn't recognize them or even see them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I noticed them, and I'm just like, how the heck are these up here? And then I remembered Jake drinking, and I got mad at first. I was like, because everybody knows I hate trash being left at my shop, so I was like, dude, why did you leave those bottle caps there? And then he just, he was laughing. and then I just left them. And then I just left them up there. And I remember one fell on the floor. And instead of throwing it away, I picked it up and I put it right back up there. And from that moment, I just knew those guys were going to be there forever.
That's
and
cool.
They've been there. Yeah. So every time I see it, it's a memory of Jake, which is cool.
Yeah, that's nice. What else I want to ask you about? Oh yeah, let's talk about. We're kind of hopping around here in terms of different topics, but talk to us about the cash money clown fish. I got a picture of that.
Yeah, the cash money clown.
That's kind of a famous picture, right? Or a clownfish.
Yeah, so the cash money clown was a wild caught clownfish from Solomon's that I got from Dave Palmer. Dave Palmer owns Aquarium Arts. He's actually a guy that I would love for you to have him on one day because Dave's stories are insane. He has stories for just. I think he grew up with Genghis Khan and did trades with that guy. So yeah, Dave's got incredible stories. But anyways, I got this clown from Dave, and I actually didn't notice the pattern on it, but it had a cool little $sign symbol on it, and he just became known as the wild caught cash money clown. It was just a true percula from the Solomons that was pretty cool.
So I love true perculas, really do.
Yep, my favorite fish. True perculas and a Tongan golden blenny. If anyone has any leads for the Tongan golden blenny, you let me know. That it looks like a lawnmower blenny, but it's yellow. It's straight up yellow. And there's different variants of it. Sometimes they're gray, sometimes they're black, but sometimes they're yellow like a yellow tank.
Really?
And those things are incredible. But yeah, I heard the lady that used to collect them out in Tonga, she had a stalker or something like that. And she stopped collecting them. And this was in 2003, 2004. They stopped coming in. Once in a while, one would trickle through from Fiji, but the Fiji ones didn't have the same yellow brilliance as the ones from Tonga had. But yeah.
What else did I want to ask you? There's a whole bunch of stuff still, Ali, that I wanted to ask you. I mean,
I got time. We could talk, baby.
What else? You had a little list in terms of stuff you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Did we hit everything?
Let's see. Not really, but it's all good. Let's see. So do you guys know the story about the Picasso percula clown?
Tell us.
So the Picasso percula clown, you see the ORA Picasso percula, which is a very common fish these days. But I named it Picasso percula. The first one I found at, Eric and Dennis Reynolds, who owned Aquamarines. They were known to get really funky fish here in LA. Really funky fish and really funky corals. Dennis was the father. Eric was his son. And they would just get the coolest stuff. And Eric called me, and he's like, Ali, dude, we got this weird-ass clownfish. And because everyone knew I was the clownfish guy. So he calls me, I go over there, and I couldn't believe it. It puts to shame any Picasso variant that you see. So this was in 2003, and I remember taking a picture of this fish and posting it on Reef Central and just titling it Picasso percula. And people just kind of lost their minds. Like, what the heck is this Photoshop? What is this thing? And yeah, so then in 2004, a year later, over the course of a month, a bunch of them started coming in wild caught. A bunch of wild, just psycho looking, you know, jigsaw Picasso true perculus. And ORA got one of those wild caught, paired it up with a true percula, and, you know, used the Picasso name. But the original Picasso was a year before, and that was purebred. It was basically just true percula. That was just nuts.
They're gorgeous.
So that was kind of
gorgeous
cool
fish.
If somebody could find the picture of the old Reef Central post that I did back in 2003, that would be awesome. I just don't know how to, because, you know, Reef Central became archived and a bunch of the photos disappeared. And yeah, you can't get it. But if there was somehow some way to get that, that would be spectacular. So yeah.
Yeah, that's just
here comes a customer knocking on my door. I'm gonna tell them to come back.
Just yell, you're closed.
No, he knows I'm closed. This is one of my good customers. He lives just down the street. He knows I'm doing a podcast. You can see it. He's coming back. He'll come back later.
That just like spawned like a whole craze in terms of you know, the variants with the Picassos and all that stuff. I mean, it's and now it's gotten to the point where there's an oversaturation, right? I mean, you can't like you know, they used to be like super expensive and super you know, people were just kind of like, I got to get one of those. I got to get a pair of that. And you know, now it's just kind of like it's there's just too many of them out there. It's flooded.
I agree, and they're all. I mean, it's hard to find a perfect textbook tank raised true percula or any clown for that matter. A lot of them have weird gill deformities, jaw deformities. So I personally still prefer wild caught true perculas as my clown of choice. You know, I wish they could tank raise them and make them super sexy and look natural and perfect. And hope maybe one day they can. But
are those still coming in, like the true perks?
They are. Yeah, they are. Not as frequently as before, but they're starting to trickle back again. But yeah, they're the best clowns. True perculas from the Solomon Islands, nothing like it.
Is that you know, you said you don't really do a lot of fish. Is that what you're known as a clown guy? That's kind of like your thing in terms of the fish.
Well, I bring in fish. I just don't do a ton of fish. I do mainly small, medium-sized reef fish, fish that are not too prone to getting sick. Yeah. You know, in my display tanks, it's a different story. I have powder blues, I have this, I have that. But the fish that I bring in for resale are usually just easy to keep fish that are colorful, that are you know, they're functional. They'll eat worms and flatworms and bugs and pests. And I try to bring in fish that are not super prone to getting velvet because my fish systems are not independent fish systems that I run copper or medicine. They're just mixed with reef tanks. So I just, you know, I try to bring in just stuff that's very not likely to get velvet. Any fish could get velvet, but you big time lower your odds when you pick the right fish.
That's not a disease you want to get.
Yeah, right.
So Ali, give us what you would, you know, what if somebody comes into your shop is like, listen, I kind of want to get to that next level in terms of reef keeping. You know, I've kind of like been struggling with it a little bit and what have you. What kind of advice do you have for people that want to, you know, improve their reef keeping skills, or people that are just kind of getting into the hobby? I mean, obviously you keep it simple. So is that your main message?
Yeah, that's the key, is to keep it simple. If you use good RODI water that doesn't have chloramines, because chloramines is a thing we didn't have to deal with back in the day. Over here, we have to deal with chloramines. So you have to make sure your RO system has a couple, you know, carbon blocks that are chloramine-specific carbon blocks back-to-back or triple back-to-back. So pure water, for sure, is important. Setting up a system where it's just a protein skimmer at the bottom, a small return pump, using as very little magnets in the tank as possible. Magnets these days are shitty. They're not like the magnets that Tunzi used to make back in the day. A lot of the magnets these days on some of the best products rust and develop hairline cracks and start putting toxins and metals and weird alloys into your water, and you don't know, well, what the heck is going on, and it's a metal, and it's usually from magnets. A lot of probe holders, a lot of tube holders, a lot of these things have junky magnets on them. So I don't use magnets. I do my best not to use any magnets in my tanks. I use good. Most of my power heads are actually Tunzi nanostreams that I modify. So one trick is to get a cheap Tunzi, and these are not controllable. They're just analog. You plug them in the wall, and they put out a bunch of flow if you modify them. So the old Tunzi small power heads, the nanostreams, they're 3 watts of energy. And if you do this modification on them, where it's you cut out the internal plastic black tube. Once you cut that, and you could cut it out with frag cutters. Once you cut it out, it does like 4 times more current for 3 watts of energy. You're putting out tons of flow with a good magnet that's not going to mess up on you. And you could rotate it and angle it however you want. And if, let's say, and that's a budget, that could be a budget friendly option. And if someone wants to spend a little more, I usually recommend the Neuro power heads. But even with the Neuros, I tell people to take a bead of silicone. You remove the pump off of the magnet, and then there's a on the back of the Neuro pump itself, there's always a black line that holds. It's sealed, and it holds a little piece of metal that connects to the internal magnet. However, sometimes water seeps in there, and sometimes they're not sealed all the way. So I always tell people, let's put a little bead of silicone around this so we don't ever have to worry about that. And then they run for years and years, and you don't have that issue. But magnets are a big thing these days. People got to be careful. Magnets and metals. Use a good quality salt mix.
What do you like?
I hate to say it. I had a lot of issues with Tropic Marin, and I was the biggest fan of Tropic Marin Pro. It was an amazing salt. It just had one bad batch, and can't trust it anymore. Killed tons of corals with it. Luckily, I was able to recover a lot of it with Red Sea Blue Bucket. I'm not a fan of the Red Sea Pro, the black bucket, but the Red Sea Blue Bucket, it's very clean. It mixes in minutes. It's 8 DKH. Magnesium's not high. It's like at 1250, but you could always bump it up a little bit. The calcium's right around 400 to 430. It's just a good, and it's evaporated salt from the Red Sea. So I don't think they have to source big, major, they don't have to source magnesium or this or that like some of these other places do. And poor Tropic Marin, man, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people stopped using their stuff because of the salt, but I don't think it was their fault. I think they just, during COVID, they couldn't source something they were sourcing that was dependent and reliable, and they might have went with something else, and that was contaminated. And it's not just Tropic Marin. Other companies have had bad batches of salt, and I hear Tropic Marin is really good again. I'm just
little gun shy.
Too afraid
You're gun shy.
I'm gun shy. But the Red Sea Blue has been good. I've always in the past even used Instant Ocean. Never had issues with it. Julian Sprung is really good. Julian Salt, I mean. Some people mix reef crystals with Instant Ocean, and that's fine. I've seen some of the best reef tanks with Instant Ocean and reef crystals. You use that Captivate stuff, right?
Yeah, I use the Captivate Aquaculture salt. I used to use Instant Ocean all the time, but then I switched to the Captivate, and I like it a lot. It's very, very clean. It's like
I've heard good stuff
about that. It's the 4 parts, so you got the two-part liquid, 2-part solid.
I used to use the ESV salt at my old shop,
too.
like 13, 14. That was fantastic salt, but what would happen was I mixed these in big 200-gallon vats, which is perfect, right? Because they would come in 200-gallon kits. But I can't get all the water out of my vats. So when I go to dump the new 200, the kits of 200-gallon salts, it'd always be off a little bit. The ratio wouldn't be right, and it got kind of annoying. So I went back to Tropic Marin or Instant Ocean, which was
you and I have dabbled in the same
awesome
salts.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I wanted to, I was curious in terms of what you advise people to do when they're starting a tank out. Obviously you were showing us you didn't have a lot of live rock or a lot of rock in your display tanks. So
ask me this. I've been waiting for this moment. Live rock or dry rock?
No, yeah, right. You guys made fun of me. Tell the story. But my question to you was going to be, how do you recommend people start a new reef tank? What's the process? Is it you take the dry rock, you do the bottled bacteria deal? Do you find some live rock? Tell your story first, then you can answer. You can mock me first, and then you could then you can provide the answer.
Sometimes just Jake and I would call each other, right? So we wouldn't say hi, we wouldn't say nothing. We would just call each other and do your voice and just no hi, no nothing, just live rock or dry rock.
So yeah, when I started doing this live stream a few years ago, I guess I was on this whole dry rock sucks, live rock is king, and yeah, a lot of.
Well, live rock is wonderful. Dry rock, if it hasn't sat in the rain, is really good too. You had issues with the Carib Sea arch rock or the Carib Sea rock. I use Carib Sea rock for most of my tanks. Well, okay, I take that back. Initially, I started these tanks with Indonesian live rock.
Ah, there you go.
But yeah, Indonesian live rock. But I've converted a lot of them to the Carib Sea arch rock because I really like the arch
Carib
rock.
Sea life rock.
Yeah, but they make one called the arch.
Just arches.
The arches are awesome. Yeah, because when you do your aquascaping with those, it's all open underneath, so you get fantastic water current everywhere. But if that arch rock had been sitting out in the rain, so let's say the suppliers held it and it was out in the rain, yeah, sometimes you'd have funky issues with it. But the stuff that was shipped and never got wet, which is the majority of that rock, I never had issues with that.
I've had a lot of issues with mine, But,
yeah. I bet you it sat out in the rain, but who knows? Who knows? There's so many different variables in this hobby. It could have just been something got introduced to the tank, goes on.
All right. So somebody comes into the shops like, I want to start a reef tank. What do you tell them to do in terms of the rock and the cycling and all that stuff? What's your advice?
So it's hard to source live rock these days. So I usually use either Real Reef, the brand Real Reef Rock, right? The brand, I'm not saying Real Reef, but so the Real Reef Rock brand or Carib Sea Arch Rock. And I tell them how to aquascape the tank, where you use minimal rock, you make a couple aesthetic asymmetrical islands, so you mimic something natural and something that's pleasing to the eye. Don't go too high with your rock because you want the corals to eventually take up the space and fill up the areas. You want to aquascape your tank with corals from the future, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
So I tell them, we just use a little bit of rock. Back in the day, we used 2 pounds per gallon and all that. It's just, we don't need any of that rock. You could set up a tank now with no rock and just aquascape it with corals, and there's still enough biofiltration on a reef tank that's not absolutely jam-packed with fish. If it's just a reasonable amount of fish, there's enough bacteria just in your sump, just in your glass.
So you don't think there needs to be specific biomedia or substrate or whatnot to colonize the bacteria?
So that's it. So I'm just talking about the rock, and you still need the bacteria to colonize the glass, the rock, the whatever. So the way I usually like to do it, I'm not a huge fan of adding a little bottle of bacteria, although I've done it and it still works. I prefer to add a little bit of coralline algae or dead snail shells or old detritus or whatever from a healthy established tank. Just add a little bit of that into the tank and
you're seeding it.
Inoculate it with
seeding
that.
The tank.
And then if the tank is brand new and it's just done with dry rock, I tell people just to add a couple of cubes of Hikari frozen mysis shrimp to it and just kind of get it going. So you start with that and then you let it go. I tell people wait a month, put the bacteria or detritus or snail shells or whatever, put your rock in, put the good salt water in, and just let the system run with no lights. just let it run for a month or whatever. After a month, I tell them to start putting corals in the tank. Don't add fish yet. Just build the tank up with corals. First, because everybody's on a budget these days, don't put an expensive coral. Just get a couple $20, $30 little fragments as testers. Put those in the tank. If these testers do good, which they should if you follow that protocol, if they do good and they're open and they're fluffy, okay, add another coral. Wait a little bit. Add another couple of corals. Wait a little bit. I tell them, if you have the patience, don't add fish for the first 3 or 4 months, which takes a lot of discipline.
How,
I don't have that discipline.
What about testing and whatnot, so you know you're through the nitrogen cycle?
If you use real reef or carob sea and you inoculate it with a little bit of bacteria like we talked about, and you wait a month and you add, a couple cubes of food and you just wait that month, it'll be done. 99% of the time, it'll be done. So you could buy a whole test kit for ammonia nitrites, but shit, you're never going to use those damn test kits again. You're going to just use them for the nitrogen cycle, and then they're going to go to waste. So just wait the month, put a couple tester corals in. If the corals open up, your water's good, and then just start building up with corals. And then if you see like a pair of true perculas that comes your way, add them to the tank.
Yeah, they're hardy.
So just build it up. Yeah, just build them up. Build it up slowly. Build it up slowly with the fish, but you could kind of build them up, kind of quicken up, with the corals, and it's all good.
Percy Adams said, "My friend took the gunk of my skimmer to seed his tank." Interesting.
Yeah, why not?
Never.
Why not, Percy?
Never thought I would. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, dude. This has been pretty awesome. I feel like I feel very honored to finally have you appear on a live stream and for you to be on the show, Ali. I think you and I had connected years and years ago via Reef Central, probably at some point in time.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, man, Keith, this is an awesome thing you got going here, man. This is fantastic. You guys watch a bunch of those like health podcasts where there's a guy like you talking and they bring in like different health guests and they're talking about new things in longevity, this and that. Well, you're doing all that for reef tanks, so keep it up, man. This is really good. You have really smart people on, really experienced people. You get a lot of different perspectives. So no, man, keep up the good work, dude. You're doing an awesome job.
Oh, I appreciate it.
It's fantastic.
I appreciate that, man. And let's do a little plug for you. How do people find you, or do you need any more customers?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they could find me by coming to my shop. I don't ship or anything. Instagram, I have an Instagram that I barely use, but it's Amazing Aquariums and Reefs, like all spelled out. I've had that since like 2012, I think, but I don't post a ton on it. I don't do a lot of social media. I like to be low key. I just like people coming in and me helping them. And I like talking to my old school buddies like you and making friends with my customers that come in. And and if you guys need like tank setups, I do tank setups and all that kind of jazz.
Man,
so whatever, come over, have some fun.
It's refreshing, dude, because you're doing the opposite of like what 99% of the people out there that run a reef keeping business are doing, which is like you're not doing social media, you're not doing the fancy equipment or the fancy lights and all that stuff. You're just kind of like keeping it really basic and simple, and you're having some great success, and you've got like this, sounds like an awesome community in terms of your customers and what have you. And it just kind of reminds me of the way reef keeping was when I got into it. It's like going to frag swaps and you're meeting people and you're connecting and you're trading stories and sharing knowledge. And I commend you, dude, for carrying on that old school tradition. And I hope that there'll be more Alis out there like you.
Oh man, there's a lot of us old schoolers. As long as we keep doing what we're doing and we treat each other kindly and help each other out, it's it'll all keep going.
Yeah. All right, Ali. Well, listen, man, I'm going to let you go because obviously you got people knocking on your door even on your day off. So, but
all right, bro. It was great being here, and yeah, thank you everybody for watching. And we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely, man. I would love to have you back on. So that's going to do it for this show. I want to thank Ali for being on the live stream. I also want to thank both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine for sponsoring the live stream. And I also want to thank Paul, the moderator, who's also the president of the Boston Reefer Society. That's also important. Please join and support your local reefing clubs. They're a big part of our ecosystem in this hobby. Also want to let you know that all episodes of Rappin With ReefBum are available as podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon. My next Rappin With ReefBum live stream will be on next Tuesday, January 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My guest will be Shane Backer from SBB Corals. You can check out the full upcoming schedule of guests on reefbum.com under the YouTube section. Until next time, be safe and be well. Later.